Hi everyone, this is Rory Neowen, and today we have here the Samsung Galaxy S20 FE 5G, which is a really mouthful of a name. FE here stands for Fan Edition, and we've seen this name before in some Samsung phones, but it's not something they do a lot of. So this is basically Samsung taking the Galaxy S20 that they released earlier in the year, toning down some things about this phone, like the build and the cameras, and making it much more affordable than the original lineup. So that's pretty much the concept of this thing. Here in Europe, we do have a 4G version of the phone as well, but in the US, there's only 5G. And I'm really glad I got the 5G version, but I'll explain that in a bit. So I'm just gonna go ahead and open this up, because usually I would show you the top of the box, but they put the shipping label on top here, and there's a bunch of barcodes and stuff that I don't want to expose, so I'm just gonna try to slide this out. And there we go. As usual for Samsung, you do have this thing here on the top part of the box with the manuals, and the SIM ejection tool is gonna be in here, so that's something to keep in mind if you're unboxing this. And here we have the phone. Now this phone is beautiful. This thing comes in 6 different colors, color options I mean. But I got the cloud red one, and whoops. Oh my, this thing is beautiful. I usually say I don't like red very much on most things, but man, does this look great. It has this frosted finish to it. I think that's why they call it cloud red, because they have this frosted finish on the plastic, which, yes, this is a plastic back, and I believe the frame might also be plastic. It feels pretty sturdy, like the build quality is great here, but I think it is plastic. It doesn't feel as cool to the touch as you'd get from metal and glass. So that's something to keep in mind. It's one of the sacrifices you make, taking those steps down to be cheaper. And actually that's something Samsung has been doing quite a bit, because even the Note 20, which is still a premium smartphone, that had a plastic back. You have to go for the Note 20 Ultra, which I also reviewed a couple of weeks ago. You'd have to go for that to get the glass build. But it's a fine sacrifice. Like I said, it feels great, so there's no issue there. But there's another downgrade back here, which is the cameras. So usually in the Galaxy S20, the base one, you'd get a 12 megapixel primary camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 64 megapixel telephoto camera. Here, the primary camera is the same, so that's 12 megapixel with all of the same specs. That doesn't change. But the ultra wide, which is the one on top here, is also 12 megapixel, but it's a smaller pixel size. There are some sacrifices there. It still does have optical image stabilization, I believe. So that's still there. And no, well, sorry, the ultra wide doesn't have optical image stabilization. That's the telephoto. I was mixing them up. So you do miss out on that pixel size, though. It's a little smaller. It's gotta get a little less light. It's not as great in that sense. And then the telephoto, it's only 8 megapixel instead of 64. So that's probably the biggest downgrade there. It does have optical image stabilization, like I was saying, and face detection autofocus. And it supports optical zoom up to 3x and digital zoom up to 30x. So it still has a lot of those base, like the general features, but you have a much lower resolution, so it's not going to be quite as great. So those are some downgrades you make, and I think that's kind of the point, because a lot of people, at least you see online, a lot of people complaining, they're saying that they like those top tier specs, like the Snapdragon processors, the top tier ones, and things like that. And Samsung is basically just trying to offer a very high performance and premium experience in that sense, without those things that some don't consider essential. So that's what's happening here. Now going around the phone here, we do have the usual array of buttons. The power button / Bixby button, you can actually turn this phone off with just this button. If you press and hold it, it will just summon Bixby, which is very annoying, but that's just the way Samsung does things. Whatever. The volume rocker here, it's the usual layout. It looks pretty nice. Up here you have a microphone and the SIM card slot. This side is as clean as it gets. There's absolutely nothing here. Then on the bottom we do have a speaker grill, a USB Type-C port that charges at least at 15 watts. That's a charge that comes in the box. I think it might support up to 25. And then we have another microphone down there. And then, of course, here at the front we have the display. So I'm gonna turn it on. Oh, it's already on. Okay. We're just gonna set this up. But in the meantime, let me just say I'm very confused by Samsung's ideas here. It's the strategy they have with advertising these phones. So here's the thing. Well, let's just take a video of everything. The Note 20 Ultra that I reviewed a couple of weeks ago, that is only available with 5G, be it in America or Europe. Like wherever you buy it, it supports 5G. But it's available in Europe with the Exynos 990 processor. And in America, it has a Snapdragon 865 Plus. So obviously the Exynos 990 supports 5G. That's not the problem for Samsung. But with this phone, they have the 5G variant in the US with the Snapdragon 865, the 4G variant in Europe with the Exynos, but then the 5G variant in Europe still has the Snapdragon 865. I don't understand why they did it that way. I just don't get it. But I'm not complaining because this is the 5G version. And my experience with the Exynos on the Note 20 Ultra was not great. So I'll be more than happy to use this and get the Snapdragon 865 instead and see how much better that is, because it does seem a lot better in terms of battery life, especially. So I'm excited for that. I just don't get it. Why is it not using the Exynos in this case? Since obviously it supports 5G. Why does the Exynos version only have 4G in this phone when it supports 5G on the Note 20 Ultra? I don't quite understand that. But whatever. That's just me being weird. Or annoyed, I guess. So here we have Samsung's. This is the annoying part of Samsung setup. I didn't log into any account, so that's whatever. But there's all these apps that they want to install. I mean, some of them are Samsung apps, like of course Samsung Notes and stuff. This is stuff that might be useful to you. But a lot of it is kind of optional. It's these partnerships, like with Microsoft. There's a lot of Microsoft stuff here. I do use these apps, but if you don't, it's kind of just annoying to have them prompted here and be selected by default. But whatever, I'm gonna confirm this. They might even prompt a couple more. I think they do. Yeah, so these are location based. These are recommended apps based on where you are and the stuff that's popular where you live. Again, I do use the second one. Whoops. I do use the second one, but it's just annoying that these things are always pre-selected. I really don't care for this. We're gonna also skip the Samsung account. So you're looking at the display here, and this is another downgrade, of course, for the S20 FE. But I don't think it's a major one. So the biggest thing here is that it's not Quad HD like the S20 family. This is Full HD. This is a 6.5-inch display, Full HD, but it still does support 120 Hz refresh rate. And I think that's a very conscious and smart choice by Samsung. I say all the time that I really don't care much about Quad HD on a screen this small, and I don't. 1080p is completely fine for me, and that's still the case. So this feels absolutely fine in terms of the resolution, and having that high refresh rate, that's something that I value a lot more and that I think a lot more people value more. So that's a very smart decision, a very smart cost-cutting measure, of course, but it works perfectly fine in terms of this still being a flagship, but now with that lower price point, and of course a lower resolution that comes with it. But it's totally fine. This looks absolutely great. I don't know if it looks as good as it would look on other Samsung phones in terms of the colors, but it looks great. It's The viewing angles are amazing on this. It's really good. So it's a great display nonetheless. You're not really missing out by toning it down to full HD. Which, by the way, if you have a Galaxy S20 and you set it to 120 Hz refresh rate, you're still going to be using full HD because it doesn't support 120 Hz at Quad HD resolution. So, like I was saying, this is completely fine. It's great. I really like that choice. Another downgrade though, again, the camera here, which is in that tiny notch, you can barely tell. There it is. The camera here is 32 megapixel on that selfie camera. And that sounds good because on the S20 you get 10 megapixel. But this is one of those perfect examples that resolution in the camera isn't everything. So this is likely not going to be as good. You see a lot of cheaper phones with these higher resolution front-facing cameras. It's not just about resolution. For example, this is a fixed focus camera, while some of the Galaxy S20 phones have autofocus on the selfie camera. So there's one of the sacrifices you make. Still, it's fine. I'm one of those people that doesn't care too much about cameras most of the time. And I mean, I have to test it, of course. I have no idea how good it actually is. But for those people that don't care about the cameras, then this is probably fine. So that's in terms of the software. There's really not a lot I can say here because this is the same experience. This is running Android 10, One UI 2.5, I think. I actually am not completely sure if yeah, it is 2.5. So it's pretty much the same I saw in the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra. I don't have One UI 3 with Android 11 yet. I actually just saw that starting to roll out to some people, but I'm not sure if that applies to Portugal. I can't find the update. But this is very much the same as you'd get on other phones. Other Samsung phones, I mean. There's wireless power share still, the link to Windows feature. Pretty much everything you'd expect from a Samsung phone is still here. That's absolutely not new. Nothing that's changed significantly from other Samsung phones. So that's pretty much it, really. Like I said, Snapdragon 865, which is actually better than you'd get from something like the Note 20 Ultra, here in Portugal at least, because that has an Exynos processor. It's got 6 gigabytes of RAM. There are some configurations that have 8, but I have never seen them. And it's got 128 gigabytes of storage. There's also a configuration, at least in the US, with 256. But I find this is more than enough for me, so completely fine. But another difference actually inside is that this has a 4500 milliamp hour battery, which is bigger than the S20. So that's actually a plus there. You do get that longer battery life compared to the regular Galaxy S20. This is the same size battery as the Galaxy Note 20 Ultra, so that's pretty cool. And considering this has that Snapdragon processor instead of Exynos, I'm really hoping I can get 2 days of battery life out of this. But of course, like I said, I'm just unboxing this now. I have no idea. But we'll be checking that out for the phone review. So stay tuned for that. I think I covered everything. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.